what I want to know is, what does that look like tangibly? Because a lot of people, and especially just kind of, I would say, I think we all know people that are living from check to check, from check to check, and they find that the answers for them are either working 80-hour weeks or, putting in more time.
All right, guys, we're back on the road to greatness, and we have a great guest with us on our 6th episode. We have Joed. What's up, Joed?
Hey, man, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. And of course, I cannot forget my right hand man, Christopher Cook. Say what's up, Chris.
What's up, Chris?
Man, that is awesome.
Oh,
well, the day finally came. I remember telling Joed, hey, we need to have you on the show, and here we are. We are live right now in the studio, in Wonderland somewhere. But we have Joed right with us, man, and we're excited. And we're going to be talking about how did we get here financially. But before we go into the whole topic and the meat of the matter, tell us about yourself. What do you do? Give us the full scoop.
Okay, well, I work as a financial advisor. I've been here for about four and a half years or so. And before that, I did commercial lending. I did a degree in finance at Washington State. And so it's a little bit about my background and career. I've been in the financial services industry for about 10 years now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And hey, he's also married to the beautiful Megan and have a lovely family. I mean, very active in church also. I know you can find him in the background at which church again?
Oh, at New Movement Church in Pasco, Washington.
Nice.
Place to be if you ever are in the Tri-Cities area and you're looking to worship and go to a nice church. New Movement's the place to go.
That's right. And man, Joyd is a man of many talents. If you go there on a good Saturday, you can probably catch him on the keys too, right?
If you catch me on the keys, something's wrong, man. Something bad happened.
But he can play. He can hold his own. As he said, just once he have time to practice, but he can hold down a tune.
Yeah, I can play a couple songs. For sure.
Nice. Oh man, that is awesome, man. But when we think about this topic financially, the reason why we brought up this topic is because me and Chris, we were sitting down one day and it was like, you ever feel like just questioning your whole life, like how did I get here? And like before college and everything, you thought like, man, I will go to college, get a job, earn a decent pay, and already have either my student loans paid off or whatever the case may be. But I'm sure you probably bounce into all types of scenarios as a financial advisor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one question I hear a lot of people ask, so how do I become rich? I'll just bounce into my first question. What do people have to do to become financially stable or even financially independent? What are some of the tips you would say?
Well, that's a good question, especially with your reading, because becoming financially stable can be kind of simple, and then you can break it down a little bit. First thing is, when we're looking at financial stability, it's just making sure you're cash flow positive. And when I say cash flow positive, that means you have more income coming in than you have expenses going out. And so it's really simplifying it, making sure that your expenses don't exceed your income, because you can't be stable unless you can't be financially stable, unless you have more cash coming in than going out. And so that's kind of the first building block. That's that first building block to stability is kind of maintaining that. So that would be the first place I'd start out with.
Man.
Oh, go for it. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just simply gonna say, man, that's a good advice, because I remember one advice this guy gave me was very similar to what you just said. Have multiple streams of income, and that goes according to what you was basically saying. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. The first step is basically just getting that income coming in that's more than your expenses, and then the second step I would take is just building some financial resilience. And what that means is just saving up enough money to be able to withstand an emergency. So say like your kid gets sick and there's a huge doctor bill, or a pipe busts at your house, or just any type of run-of-the-mill emergency. You're not running up a credit card bill, or you're not trying to take out a loan or something like that. You have the cash on hand to basically be able to handle those emergencies, because when you can do that, then you have some resiliency and you're still maintaining that stability of cash flow.
Right.
That's kind of that second step, is having that emergency fund is what some people call it, but just another way is just resiliency, savings on hand, so that you can withstand what life is going to hit you with, because eventually something will happen.
Right.
It's just, are you ready for it and planning for it?
Yeah, no going to loan sharks.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Here. If you guys just allow me to play kind of devil's advocate, but what I want to know is, what does that look like tangibly? Because a lot of people, and especially just kind of, I would say, I think we all know people that are living from check to check, and they find that the answers for them are either working 80-hour weeks, or putting in more time, and then a lot of times the payout, even after putting in some people, such as even my mother-in-law, she'll do a double. She'll do some healthcare and she'll do a double, and then at the end of the month, though, the money that she was hoping was going to get there wasn't quite what she was hoping for. So sometimes people spend years, kind of repeating that same step. So I mean, what does it look like tangibly? How is someone supposed to be able to, that doesn't understand how to get multiple streams of income, what does that look like for them, and where do they start to where that is a tangible goal to reach for them, and they can cover emergencies or things that come up that they didn't expect, and essentially get out of poverty, even just into middle class, and then from middle class into upper class. Like, what does that look like?
That's a really good question. It's funny, I was kind of dealing with this with a friend. I was helping a friend out the other day, because he was telling me some similar items that you're talking about. So I'll run through a couple ideas that I gave him, kind of tangibly went through. The first thing is looking at your expense management. Is really going through it. And this goes back to some of my banking days. Like, out of college, I had a degree in finance, and the majority of what I was doing in school was like stock analytics and things of that nature. When I got out of school, the market had crashed, and there were no jobs really for that type of scenario. So, like, I started at the bottom, man. I started as a personal banker. I was a personal banker at a local bank here, making small business loans and doing home equity loans, and doing like your business accounts and personal accounts. So I was doing the entry level work. But what that really taught me was, through some of those experiences, is helping people kind of make those tangible steps. So one of the first things I learned was expense management. And we're looking at expense management. We're looking at every expense that you have, and what I used to have to do for some people is just run through their checking account and say, is Netflix, not that Netflix isn't bad, but is that necessary? Is the Starbucks trip absolutely necessary? Is the Hulu subscription, is that necessary? Is like all of these, there's a lot of subscriptions.
Now they have Disney Plus.
Yeah, you got all this stuff, which is cool, and like full disclosure, I have Netflix and Hulu, but there's things, is it really necessary? That's what I had to do, go through, and what is like your light bill, that's necessary. Your gas, that's necessary. Things of that nature, figuring out what expenses are actually necessary and what expenses are more of a unnecessary expenses.
Wow.
Looking through there, typically you can find something in there.
Right.
There's something in there almost every. I've never had an opportunity to look through someone's stuff and never seen anything I couldn't cut.
Right.
So you got to look at the expense management, and then from my lending experience, typically there's some ways to, especially if you can keep your credit good, to where you can consolidate some debt and lower your interest and lower your payment, especially right now when interest rates are low. Opportunities to refinance debt, consolidate credit cards, things of that nature, and get your payments down, get your interest rate down, making sure that you're not just making minimum payments or interest payments, things of that nature. Just really taking a long look at all your expenses associated with debt and seeing if there's opportunities, because there's typically, if you have solid credit, there's opportunities, and if you don't have solid credit, you can go to one of these credit agencies or even a local. There might be some local agencies that can give you some pointers on how to get your credit score up, so you can take advantage of opportunities. Because if you really put the time and the work and the discipline into it, I think there's definitely ways of making that happen. So you got your expenses, you got your debt, and then kind of you're talking about income and working a double and things of that nature. Working multiple hours, multiple jobs can be that's tough. I remember when I did a year off between going to college, and I was working about 60 hours a week, and I was making barely anything, barely enough to live. And not everybody has this opportunity, but I was like, I need to get back in school and finish my degree. That was, for me, that was a huge wake-up call. I was 21, 22, working really hard and barely getting anywhere. And so that part of it was my job that I had was not going to be able to be sustaining. I knew I wanted to finish college anyway, so I just took a year off. But sometimes education can be a source of getting out.
Right.
Also, too, when we're looking at, because education typically gives you a step in. Like, my education was helpful because the hiring manager at the bank at the time was he had a whole bunch of people who worked with him who were kooks. I was from Washington State. He's like, oh, you're a kook just like such and such and such and such. And so he was like,
go Cougars.
I know you guys. Yeah, so it was cool. Shout out to my school. But,
hey.
Exactly, man.
Get some sponsorships.
I know, right? Go for it. But they were comfortable with it already.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, we got a whole bunch of cooks here. You guys got a great work ethic. You guys are smart guys. We like you. So
nice.
It was just another notch in the belt. But education kind of gets people, can make people work. It doesn't get you a job, but it can help get your foot in the door. And then what was I going with that piece also? The being specific about your job. If you can get full time too, there's jobs with benefits. So like when I was working with multiple jobs, I was doing part time at like 2 or 3 different places.
Wow.
If I would have been working full time, when I would have been working full time at one and part time at another, I could have gotten actual benefits at one place, which would have been helpful. Some of those things is being strategic about how you're allocating your time in the workplace and where you're allocating your time. Does one of those job opportunities have upward mobility? Are you putting in the type of time and effort to attain that upward mobility?
Right.
So it's finding those places, strategically finding those places where you can find that upward mobility. And then on the side hustle, trying to be very strategic about that as well. Is it a side hustle that you enjoy? Is it a side hustle that can be profitable and have residual income? Things of that nature. Can it be profitable without you spending so much time on it too?
Right.
So things of that nature. Can you build? Is there like those types of things are helpful. If it's a side hustle at like say a fast food restaurant, that's okay for the moment, but let's strive for something bigger. Let's strive for something that builds you up, something maybe a passion project that could turn into a small business, that could potentially turn into your business, which could potentially support your family at one point, so that you are building something of your own. So those are things that I think about when people say 60 hours a week and things of that nature. I'm like, so where are you spending all 60 of those hours? Let's see if there's more efficient ways of doing it.
And you remind me, what you just said there remind me of a book I read, The Millionaire Mindset, which says, how much is your time worth? You determine that, because you can carry your expertise to any business. How much do they value you? And that's how much they pay you. And by you accepting that, you are saying, well, this is how much my time is worth eventually. So always strive big. That's a good point.
It's interesting that you mentioned like the part-time jobs, and I think at one point it was very common for part-time jobs not to honor benefits. But one of the trends I'm starting to see now is that there's a lot of part-time jobs now offering benefits. Case in point, Lowe's, if you work 20 hours or 25 hours, they offer part-time benefits, health benefits. They have a ton of benefits. And then, Panera, another case in point, at part-time, they offer also benefits. But then the catch is, can you get, because to get benefits, you would have to work at least 20, 25. And then the catch is, can you get those amount of hours? Because sometimes in those specific positions, you're kind of subject to the amount of hours that they give you if you're an hourly associate. And so it's kind of interesting you mentioned that, because I'm starting to see another trend go another direction to where, it's almost starting to become, I guess, not all cases, and I think it's very slow, but that's something I'm noticing. The other part that I kind of heard you say was, it seems like you're really like focusing on, your cash management, like touching on that. And one of the things I wanted to know was, so let's say we focus on like the Hulu subscriptions and things like that, and we would take, the coffee and the things like that. And so now we've got more income and we've got less expenses. But then what? Like, so if I still bring in more income, that's kind of a fast track. So a slow track. So I guess kind of now what I'm wondering, is there such thing as a fast track to, gain the necessary income to kind of get out of poverty and to increase your income on like an upward scale, to where it's not just a slow, steady rise, and where it's like you can decrease the expenses and then, maybe there's like a jump in an expense, but what if that expense is an investment? What if that investment were to make money? How do you feel about, that?
Well, that's a good question. I was kind of taking some notes as you were talking there. So let me kind of try to address one thing after another. and kind of walk through it. So when we're looking at cash management, and I just got to give a plug to my mom and my dad for early on. And hopefully this isn't too far off subject. But
oh no, you're fine.
Early on they taught me about tithing, and so from like my first time getting an allowance or whatever it was, the first $10 they gave me, they taught me early on, you gotta give. It's like this money is given to you by God, and you need to return a tenth to Him. And so from a young age, I kind of been living on a budget. So $9 out of every 10 is not even mine. So that was like the start of my kind of cash management, basically. I think it was like 5 years old or something like that. And so for me, cash management is kind of been something that's been drilled into me from day one. And so that's kind of where it starts. But when we're looking at long term and kind of getting, so once you have your positive cash flow, so the next thing that we're looking at doing is you wanted to look at how to increase your income. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's a couple different ways, and I can probably give you guys some personal experience too here. Is in your job, first of all, in your job, because when I started at the bank, I wasn't barely making anything. I think I was in like the mid to high 30s, close to 40, something like that. I wasn't making much, and I was pretty unhappy about that, especially in college. And you're like, hey, I'm about to get out of college. I'm about to get a great job. Everything's about to be amazing. And get out and expecting.
You're hoping to be on MTV, check my crib and everything.
Yeah. I'm barely paying my student loans right now. My student loans, like I'm scooting by. But so for me, just in my experience, I just really devoted myself to my job, even though I didn't even really like it that much. I just devoted myself 100% to it because I saw that there was opportunities for upward mobility. So in that scenario, what I did was I just learned everything that I could. I went out and I found mentors, especially in the bank, who would be willing to teach me what they knew. And so as I started growing my knowledge base of how the system worked, getting connected inside of the bank and knowing the executives and senior VPs and things of that nature, I started learning things faster and getting really good at what I did. And so there was at one point I got to the point where this is a West Coast bank. It was, but I got to the point that at my position I was the #1 producer. Like 3 months out of a year, and I stayed in the top 10 for like 18 months straight.
Wow.
And so at that point I was there was a big awards thing, and I got to go to that, and I was blessed to meet the head of commercial banking.
Wow.
For our division. And so he actually, we kind of waved in passing, but he remembered me from there. And so I was about 18 months into my job, and I'm like, I'm making nothing here. And I saw an email, I saw an open position. And so I emailed him. I was like, hey, I want to be part of the team. I want to start doing some commercial lending. I want to do some bigger loans. I want to do bigger things. And we sat down, we had lunch. I just told him everything I was doing. He had heard of me before, which was really cool. And long story short, he brought me on the team, which raised my income considerably.
Praise God.
I'll say it was considerable.
I'm like, Mom, we made it.
Yeah, it was a good day, man. It was a good day.
For sure.
I was out to Mary at the time, and I was like, hey, we're getting this money now. Like it was a good day. I was like, thank you, Jesus.
Oh yeah.
That was a good day. But for me, the income jump was really just about grinding, prayer, and connections.
Wow.
Grinding it out, like every day, going in there and just being locked in.
Right.
I probably haven't been that locked in a long time, but it was kind of owning my position, humbling myself at first because I didn't think I thought I was overqualified, which I was for that job. And so I had to humble myself.
Right.
And then I had to just say, hey, if this is the place where I am, I'm going to be the best where I am. And so that's kind of how.
And
and then
go ahead.
another way to. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh, no. You finish your point. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to answer the secondary question. Another way of increasing your income is starting your own business. Because as an entrepreneur, that's where the income is unlimited. Even if you start like a smoothie shop or something, who knows what it is. But even if you do that, the income is you get out what you put in. And whatever if you're doing the right thing, if you're helping people, if you're providing value to them, and you're your own boss, and the income is on you to make, it's unlimited. Then it becomes about how much do you want, how bad do you want it, and like how much you're willing to put in to make it happen.
Right.
When you're doing the right thing, you're providing value to your clientele, and I think if you're trying to do something that helps your community, I think you'll be blessed by that. And then your income's unlimited because no one's paying you.
Right. You're in charge of the whole pie. But while I have this opportunity, I know you mentioned a little bit on this a little earlier, but right now, next week is what? Thanksgiving, and there's a holiday everybody I know is looking forward to, which is called Black Friday. And I already hear some of my coworkers saying, yo, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. I've been waiting for this and that and blah, blah, blah. And even me, I'm eyeing down a certain phone right now that I'm hoping to upgrade to, Samsung 10 Plus. But what are some common mistakes people do without knowing that they're hurting themselves financially in your experience?
Oh man, some common mistakes. Common mistakes are credit card debt. Buying something that you want with a credit card.
Oof.
That's just a big no-no. At least that's a big no-no. Like, don't do it.
Man.
Don't do it. If you have to use your credit card, don't do it.
It reminds me of what my friend said.
Credit card off, don't do it.
If it ain't in the budget, don't spend it.
So, because,
exactly.
And I run with a different circle because a lot of them can't. Well, I need credit. So what would you say to that? About people who need credit in order to maybe pull out a loan for a mortgage, to get a house, and credit. And sometimes now you need even just good credit to get hired for a job, which is, that was kind of interesting to me when I first discovered. I was like, wait, they actually check your credit? Like, oh yeah, they definitely check your credit before they hire you, which could make or break you. So what are some ways? What about that?
So if you need credit, I think getting a small credit card with a small balance is the way to go. If that's like your way of needing credit, if you can't get one of those, I'm sure any department store will let you get a credit card. They'll give you like a $50 balance or something like that. I haven't got one in a long time, so I could be wrong.
Good for you.
Getting a small balanced credit card.
I have one credit card, like full disclosure, like you said, I've got one credit card for one store for one purpose. You know what I mean? And I make very small payments every time, every month, and it's helpful because it's like those are things that we need on a regular basis, like clothes or whatever, because my daughter, as she gets older, she needs clothes. So we shop at Old Navy because we find that the clothes fit her, they're stylish enough to where they don't look kind of like crazy, and then we can make those, regular payments, and they're always doing sales, so I'm always looking for like those 75% off, things like that, which is why I use the card the most, as opposed to, bringing straight out of my checking.
Well, I'm also curious too, if I may, right? There are some people out there that would say, "Yo," Dave Ramsey would say, "No, don't get a credit card. Period. You don't even need credit because it makes no sense to have credit if you can't even buy it. Whereas if you have the cash, you don't even need a credit. You could just buy the whole store because you got the cash like that." So, I mean, what would you say? What would you say to people like that?
Well, just to start with, I like Dave Ramsey a lot, actually. I think a lot of what he's telling people is really good stuff. But I think there is a place for credit cards because, but for some people it's dangerous, and so you got to know yourself.
Right.
You got to understand.
You got to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, you got to have a little self-awareness, right?
That's right.
Like so like I had to check into a hotel when I went to a conference earlier this year, and they asked me for my credit card because they to cover incidentals. So if I didn't have a credit card, they'd been like, "What's going on here? What's wrong with this guy? Can't get into this hotel." So
oh wow,
I think there's certain instances like that because it was out in Atlanta, and so there's certain instances like that where I could have been probably like scrambling a little bit because I don't have a credit card.
Couldn't you have used a debit card?
There's certain things, I don't know, and that's the thing. I think I've tried to use a debit card before, but I just have one on me because I want to be able to handle every circumstance. And if I might have been able to use a debit card, you might have to have a certain amount of balance.
Yeah.
Which would have been fine, but I personally don't like people having access to my checking account.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's that's more of a preference thing for me. I like having a credit card. I feel like I'm disciplined enough to manage the credit card. It's pretty simple. Like, don't buy anything on the credit card that you can't pay off immediately. So that's kind of my rule of thumb in using a credit card. And there's certain ones that give you perks like miles and things of that nature. And so if you can keep yourself disciplined, there's a place for it.
Yeah. And before we move on, what other mistakes would you say that are common, or if that's just it, I mean, we can move on, but I just was curious to know, do you know of any other common mistakes that people do without knowing they're making a mistake financially and end up in a position where they are questioning, man, how did I get here? Like living to paycheck to paycheck.
Credit card's a big one, but the one I see here at my office a lot is people, not a lot, but probably with a quarter of the people who come in, they're not taking full advantage of their 401ks. Typically there's an employer match associated with contributions to your 401k, and if you're not contributing to it, they don't have to match your contributions because you're not contributing. And so one of the first places to go is just say, hey, look, let's contribute enough to your 401k to get the employer match, or at least max out the amount that they'll match you. And typically it's a percentage of your income. So that's free money. And so taking advantage of that is something that some people just don't know about, and I think it's a big thing because your employer, that's a benefit of your employment, and I think it's a really good idea to just take advantage of that because that savings can go a long ways, especially with compounding interest.
Oh yeah, it's surprising that you say that because we find a lot of Americans hurt themselves by digging into that and taking out loans, and they're not knowing they're hurting themselves in the future.
Yeah. Go for it.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. I'll remember.
Oh well, I was just going to say it's the loans. They make you on a repayment schedule. It doesn't hit you with the taxes, but the withdrawals. Your early withdrawals from your 401ks. That's where you get a 10% penalty from the government for pulling the money out, plus it's taxed as income. So you kind of get hit twice with that. So those are one of those things where if you can figure out how to not do it, that'd be advised.
Yeah, Chris, you were saying something?
Well, like side note, I know I have some people in my family that took everything out of their 401k and they invested in a business, and it worked out really well for them.
Right on.
I'm sure it definitely had a little bit of a pinch, but it definitely did work out well for them, and they're still they're still growing. But side note on that. On the other part, in terms of just like common mistakes, and I don't want to spend like crazy long on it, but I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts in terms of assets and liabilities. And a lot of people not really understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. What are your thoughts on that, and if that's a common mistake that people make?
Can you give me some examples? Like, help me out with that a little bit more.
Some people would go and finance a car, and maybe their income is at $24,000 to $34,000 a year, and they might go finance a car, and they would call that a asset, when in fact, when I look at purchasing a car, I would find that it's to me more of a liability. That's one example.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. Yeah, cars are typically liabilities. They're assets. Assets are items that you hope appreciate. And a car is a depreciating asset because you need maintenance. It's getting older. You're putting miles on it, and even when you drive out the lot, it always loses value. So yeah, and then there's a debt associated with it when you take out a loan for it. So cars are definitely liabilities. So you gotta be really strategic about your car purchases.
Yeah, don't be going out there and buy Ferraris.
You really want to. Yeah.
Or Teslas.
Wait. No. Don't. Tesla is a good one. You could tell who's a Tesla fanboy here.
Yeah, so that's definitely a liability. But like an asset is more like your home purchase or a rental purchase. Typically real estate is appreciating. There's going to be up and down markets. There's booms and busts, kind of like we saw in 2007, 2008. But if you hold on to land and real estate over time, you should see some solid appreciation. And then in relation to a car, if you hold on to a car for 5 years, it's probably going to be worth like 10 cents on the dollar what you purchased it for. So it's one of those. When you look at both of those things, there's a no-brainer on what to spend. If you're looking to appreciate your wealth or grow your wealth, the real estate over the car purchase is definitely a no-brainer.
And I say that only just because there are people out there who would consider a home an asset. Because if you ask them, if they don't know the difference between an asset and a liability, and you were to ask them, like, oh, it's an asset because I need my car in order to get to work. I need my car for it. And so that's typically the response I usually hear. Oh, I need to do this and to accomplish these like tasks, And so one of like this like mantra that I'm kind of hearing now too is just like let your assets pay for your liabilities. And that's probably for a whole nother episode, but yes, I just kind of wanted to touch on that just a little bit in terms of just common mistakes. I think that the field that you're in finance, it's important that you understand, and a lot of people don't understand and be financially literate and figuring out what things mean on their taxes. Because, these are things that they're not teaching in high school.
Nor college, sometimes.
Yeah, there's hardly any, definitely not learning in college. So being financially literate, understanding even just financial terms, it seems so basic, maybe to you because you've been in it for so long. But there's a lot of people they don't understand, or they don't.
You know, that actually leads us into the next um segue actually. It's like it sounds like you have a good understanding of finance, Joed, and you know, when it comes to finances, were you always knowledgeable about it growing up, or did you learn it at Fort Hard Knocks?
I feel like I've always been solid, but I did have like what is it called, mea culpas or whatever. Like there's moments where you screwed it up, and so I'll tell a quick story about how I screwed it up one time.
Okay.
When I was talking about credit card debt. That was, it first came up because it happened to me at one point. And I learned a really good lesson from it. I had a student credit card when I was a student, and then I would use it, pay it off, use it, pay it off, use it, pay it off. But one thing I did was I went from working full time, like 60 hours, to working part time, like 15 hours when I went back to school. And one thing I missed doing was paying off my credit card before I went to 15 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a balance on my card, and the first time I saw the interest payment, it freaked me out because my interest payment was like 23%. My interest rate was like 23% or something like that.
Wow.
Like, whoa, these guys just charged me a whole bunch of money on that.
That's what you call loan sharks.
It was so bad. I couldn't believe it. Luckily, my balance wasn't huge, but like it caught me off guard.
Could imagine.
It took me like 3 or 4 months to pay it off. Yeah, it took me like 3 or 4 months to pay it off. It took me a while.
Wow.
So it was one of those. That was a lesson, a lesson that I had to learn, that I learned quickly about my credit card. Now there was just a lack of planning. I was 21 or so, 20 something, and it was a little wake up call, like, hey man, you need to pull your life together and make sure your finances are tight. This is what you're going to school for. You need to be able to practice what you preach. Like, how are you going to go out and not be financially literate, going to school for this, and then you're going to go into this field. So for me, it was a little bit of a wake up call, and it kind of hurt because I paid the bank more interest than I'd like to. But it was a learning experience. So I feel like I've always been solid. I've had moments of lapses where I have to kind of pull myself back together.
Right. I mean, growing up, you know, a lot of people think, you know, hey, I think, and this is just me, I could be dead wrong, but I think sometimes your environment helps you with understanding how money operates. I honestly think so at times. And then when those who haven't born into money, they learn about it because they have what you call that drive, that will. So they just in like kind of baptize themselves in trial by error almost, if you know what I mean. You know, by trying things, you know, I mean, if you hear many of the major titans, you know, they have tried many businesses, and you know, some succeed, some fail, but they just kept on trying and just multiplying that money. You know, they just make money. They knew how to work money, and they understood it by just trial and error. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you know.
Speaking of, go ahead.
Oh no. That was basically my point. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, like, speaking of interest rates, and it kind of segues into the next question, but, you know, I was looking at, like, interest rates on my student loans, and I think when I kind of calculated it out, it was, like, almost, like, $7 a day as I was accruing.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, you know, and then they were like, yeah, you know, we want you to pay, the payment was, I think, I'm trying to remember, like almost $600 a month, and then paying the like $200 a month, like was an option, and I can't remember what they said exactly. I had this conversation probably a few weeks ago because I was looking to see like what kind of minimum payments I can do, where I can kind of like pay off a little bit of the principal instead of just paying some of the, the interest rate. And I was just kind of like overrun with it. I was like, wow, like this is crazy because, there's no way. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like, school has been, I can hear like where, hey, definitely like you're right in possibly somewhere, but then it's like, I think in my case, I've had to like figure out with like my particular career path, I've had to figure out like, hey, how do I even just get my foot in the door? Because I'm working odd ends and extra because I'm hearing like, hey, you don't have enough experience, you need experience, and like, man, no one will give me experience. So now I'm like having to like go out, try to do things for free, try to showcase a portfolio, and come back to it. And on top of that, work, as much as I can, in the odd ends. And so it's been, I would say, pretty frustrating, pretty disappointing, and just kind of like, man, I can't give up, but I definitely feel like I want
to. Yeah, well, that's the thing with student loans too. Student loans have some pros and some really bad cons because, like, they don't always guarantee you a job.
Exactly.
Doesn't always guarantee you a job.
It doesn't, like, from what it promises and what you get, it's still a gamble. Because you was gonna say something. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're well. What I was just gonna say is you're absolutely right. Like I had to start at the bottom. I was one position away. I was 2 positions away from being a teller when I started at the bank. I was lucky to have a desk. I was lucky to have one of those desks in the corner.
Yeah.
You know one of those desks in the corner when you walk into the bank and you see the guy sitting there? That was me, and I felt like I was starting at the bottom.
Wow.
Because who cares if you can do some analysis on a company, on a stock, if no one's buying it. If the market's crashing and you have no real experience, who cares? So
that's so true.
On that, I sympathize with it only in the sense I somewhat sympathize, I somewhat don't. And I remember I was having a conversation with Elton because I said I was hitting up random companies within my local area and telling them I will work for free. I will do this for free. Just let me come in and I'll give you the time that I can, and bada bing, bada boom. And it was like, even then, it's been difficult to even work for free.
Wow.
It was like, man, like I can't even work for free, let alone do an entry level. I was like, I'll settle for an entry level, right at the very bottom, you can wipe your feet on me type of position. Just get me in the door. And I have yet to accomplish that. And so I was able to find one person out here in Post Falls, Idaho, at Dodge Finley Automotive, and I called him up and I said, hey, is that internship position still available? He was like, yeah, I'll work with you. It's been kind of slow going, but, I'm coming in doing like little projects here and there where I can, but even still, it's very slow going, and it's like, man, I'm ready to actually come in and put in some time and actually get some stuff going, because I was interviewing for positions because of it, and they were like, so where are you at with that? And I was like, well, they're like, oh, well, it seems like you really want to do this, and this is a social media position, I don't know. And then they called me in again, and I was like, so where are you now? And I'm like, well, I've been interning, and I'm, doing this, and, oh, okay, well, this is a social media position, and I was like, yeah, I know you guys, called me in, and I was like, but I know I can do this, They were like, well, we've got some other candidates, and So I mean, man, it's just, and I just kind of am hoping for you to speak to it because it's like I'm sure that there's a lot of other people in a similar position who have just kind of said to themselves, I give up, I'm done, because like this isn't working. So what do I do? Like where do I turn? Like what's the next step? You know, I'm just kind of curious if you can speak on that for a couple minutes.
I don't know if I don't feel like an expert in that sense, but what I can tell you is a little bit of my experience. So when I was coming out of school, my whole last semester was really stressful personally for me because I didn't have a job, and I wanted to move to Tri-Cities, and I had no real connections, and so my strategy for kind of getting a job and trying to get an internship to support myself was every weekend I would drive back, because I had class from Monday to Thursday. So Friday early morning I would drive out here and put my resume at every financial institution, bank, credit union, investment house, wire house, these little loan places. I probably put out, I think if you ask any manager, they probably have an old app 11 years ago, like either an application or a resume. I put my resume in at least 100 different places out here. Every weekend I was out here. Every weekend I was just walking into random places. Hey, I just wanted to visit a hiring manager here. Can I give my resume? I'm graduating in May. Like,
where are you driving?
I don't know how many. I was driving from Pullman, Washington, like 2 hours away. Yeah. And I really didn't have the gas money to do it. So I was like, I need a job. So like I did that and I prayed on it, and the biggest blessing was the week before I graduated, I got 2 offers like in the same week.
Wow.
I've been interviewing and doing all this stuff, and I got 2 offers. But it took me 4 months. So there was times where I felt like almost crying on my way out here, because I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this thing.
And
I don't know how I'm going to figure this thing out.
10% ties.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I don't know how I'm going to do this thing. Like, I'm about to be out of school. My student loans are going to be starting to be due in 6 months. I don't have a job. I don't have connections. All I have is, like, remember Obama used to always say, hope?
Yeah. A wing and a prayer. Oh man, I feel that.
It was real, man. Like imagine hearing no so many times, and then having that to come back out and get some more no's.
Oh my God.
And hearing no again. Oh, we're not hiring. And then right at the end, God came through for me.
Amen.
So what I tell people is just hang in there, be faithful, and God's really going to take care of you.
You know,
that's the one thing that has always worked for me, and that's something that I'll tell anybody, and I'll go to the grave believing that.
That's true.
So that's why I say, hang in there, believe in God, do the right thing. You know what the right thing is, and He'll take care of you.
You know, being a graduate myself, though, right? I feel that student loans have been a big burden on majority of Americans and maybe many others around the world today. And I was just doing some research, right? I looked up. The total amount of student loan debt is $1.47 trillion at the end of 2008. Okay? 2018. And I was just doing some thinking. I'm sure you have seen this. To take out a business loan is way harder than to get a student loan. Don't you see something wrong with that? I feel something wrong with that, me personally.
I agree with you. Give me a 19-year-old. That's your typical freshman age, right? 19.
Yeah.
Give me a 19-year-old, $20,000 in student loans, and they just sign their name on it. That something just doesn't seem right there.
Oh man.
That's just my thing.
I honestly think that is one of a common mistake. I mean, in my opinion, I could be wrong, Joette, but the way how I see it in today's world, I think that's a common mistake thousands of young people are doing. And here's why. Not everything they have the gifts for requires a degree. I think they should search out what they, well, to those who have a passion, maybe they need more of a, what you may call it, a vocational school or something like that, instead of going to a liberal arts school and get themselves in a whole depth. I mean, that's just me speaking, but what is your...
Jobs,
Go ahead.
trades jobs are actually hurting. Like, they're looking for people that are construction workers. They're looking for people that are going to lay down cement.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for, like, trades positions, steel, logging, wood. And these jobs actually could potentially pay anywhere from 60 to 90,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is I don't know if it's being marketed very well, because that is the case. I don't know if you guys have heard of Mike Rowe, producer of Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
Something that he's been a very big advocate of, is promoting trade positions and kind of steering away from college degrees and of that nature. Where people kind of want to be marketing positions, they want to be doctors, they want to be lawyers, they want to be, which is all good. But it's not the only direction in terms of building wealth. And I think some people kind of forget that.
Yeah, I the one thing I wanted to clarify too is I'm all for education. I just think that there might need to be a little bit of education around the finances associated with student loans. That's kind of.
I like the way how you said that. That was awesome.
Even the field that you're going into, when you're looking at jobs that are available, and a lot of people now during this particular time is in nursing shortage, so you've got tons of people in nursing programs, tons of people competing for these nursing programs that they cost a pretty high top dollar. So being competent and knowledgeable about the career you're trying to pursue and what's available out there.
As we come down close to the end of this episode, I wanted to know, since we're talking about young people and students, what are some ways we can start to engage young people, children, to start thinking about their financial future from a young age before making mistakes that probably you and I, or even Chris made, and there are plenty probably that have their opinions. But what are some of your opinions from a financial point of view?
So I'm a parent,
and
I was blessed to have parents who did I think a good job of really kind of teaching me the value of money and how to acquire it. I feel they probably gave me stuff here and there, but I feel like they always attached worth to money. So they. Whenever I needed like $10 or something, they're like, go rake all the leaves in the yard, and then I'll give it to you. Or my dad had a second job, so my dad's like, well, come work with me all day, and I'll give you $10. Like
nice, $10, and that was a lot back then.
Yeah, it was a lot more back then. $10 was more like 30 or 25, whatever. There was a give and a take. There was something attached to the money, and so I knew that money didn't just come and grow on trees. And so I think one of the things as a parent and as parents we can start teaching some of those. I'm a young parent, so I'm still learning a lot.
Yep.
You see me with my girls, man. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. But creating the value of it, and letting them know that it doesn't just come from thin air, I think is a big thing. And attaching work, because once you get into the real world, people are going to want value to give you money. If you have at Starbucks, you give them $5 because you want their coffee, because you value their coffee. Like, there's different things of that nature. You value a service.
Wow.
Of that nature.
You know, it's
People pay me to manage their money. That's kind of how there's a trade.
yeah. No. That's it's a funny thing you said that it's basically training your kids to have a strong work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was doing a little reading on a book written by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and he said this: there is no such thing as one, like I won money in the Jewish language. You always earn money, and he kind of correlates that with, listen, you should not be ashamed for money that you work for. Never be ashamed of it. Sometimes if you win money via prize or gamble, some people put a stigma on that. But with in the Jewish language, you could never win money. You always work for it. It's always a positive trade. You know what I mean? And it's a great thing to teach kids to start. Listen, no matter how much money you have, if you work for it, you should be happy about it.
Yeah, and you were with me when we went to the community college and did the little job fairs thing. That was an opportunity then. I tried to keep some of those same principles, because I think that serves people well in the long run.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
the other thing. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Joey.
So I'll just say one more thing to add to that is a quick story I had on that was my dad had 3 cars at one point.
Nice.
He had a car for me, or she had a car for him. He had a car for my mom. And there was an extra car, and I'm like, oh, that's mine, right? Part of me was thinking that. He made me buy it from him. And prove that I could pay for the insurance before he let me buy it from him.
Wow.
I had to have a job outside the house to be able to pay my insurance, because he's like, I am not going to pay your insurance. You're going to pay your insurance.
Wow.
You got to buy the car from me and then prove to me that you can make the insurance payments and pay for your gas actually too before I'm going to let you buy this car.
Wow.
So there's a lot of responsibility associated with that. That's why I said I feel like I've been solid with money, because I've almost been forced to be solid with money.
Oh yeah, that's a good training ground right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure
and it's funny, this is for another episode, but I had a very different background, and it was in a sense where at a young age I had to go and work for money, because that was the only way I was going to be able to, accomplish what I needed to accomplish. Like, there was no, like, it was just me and my mom, single mom, and, she did what she could to make ends meet, and then it was kind of like, you want to do this, you want to do that, you're going to have to get out there and work too. So I think I started working at, like, the age of, I want to say 13. I started working for, like, a general contractor, doing, like, odd months for him and things like that. And that was during high school, to grocery stores, anything that I could to, like, pay my own bills and things like that. And so, yeah, for another story. But, yeah, really good stuff, guys. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Joey.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have you back on again. We're going to have to schedule that, because we're just kind of breaching the surface, kind of with these discussions. But, it's been really good, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, but before we close out, Joed, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you if they're interested in earning your, seeking your business?
I'm out here in Kennewick, Washington. I work at the Waddell & Reed office on Gage. And, you can come see me anytime. I do invest in investing, and I help people plan for retirement. So
that's right.
We make retirement dreams come true, man. That's what I say sometimes. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Living in paradise.
That's right.
We try to make things happen one day at a time.
That's their motto. That's their motto. They mean it. Just another day in paradise. When they ask Joey, how you doing, Joey? Man, another day in paradise.
That's right.
I'm taking things one day at a time. So.
Man, that's right. Man, Joel, it's been such an awesome experience having you live in our studios here, you know, all the way in Kennewick, Chicago, and Spokane at the same time. Man, we're just having a blast here on the road to greatness. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We will see you guys next time. Thank you once again, Joed. And from myself, Elton, and Chris, we're going to see you guys, all right? Signing out.